Joining us now, Mike Allen, co-founder of Axios. And just considering all these things swirling around here, Mike, a lot of times the real world, the best laid plans, we got these wonderful feel-good Olympics, and at the same time, I'm worried about Iran's response, whether that could be today, and we're talking about a stock market that hasn't seen this type of sell-off in quite a while. With that as a backdrop, the vice president has no choice other than to make that choice today or tomorrow. She's got to have someone ready to go by tomorrow. So that's coming either way, even if it's not a great time in the news cycle for it.
No, you're exactly right, Joe. We talk about a split screen. Well, what I said at the top of my newsletter, Axios AM, this morning, is today you're going to need 3 screens because the possibility of imminent escalation in the Mideast, the route that you've been covering all morning. And you're right about Veep. That's a self-imposed deadline by Vice President Harris. She said that tomorrow evening, she'll appear in Philadelphia with her choice as they kick off a 7-city, 5-day tour of the swing states. And what's the latest? What are the odds? So what's very interesting about this, Joe, is this could well have come down to the vice president's feel as she met in person with these finalists in Washington this weekend. Now, Joe, as your viewers know, for a week now, Wall Street has been convinced that the pick was going to be Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania or some governor, because there's been communication from the campaign that financial services firms should get their contributions in by this weekend. And the assumption was that was to avoid triggering the SEC's pay-to-play rule, which prevents you from giving to state officials. That rule applies to state officials when they're running for federal office. So the deduction on Wall Street was it's going to be a governor. And Joe, your viewers like data. Math plus logic has pointed now for several days to Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, age 51. Here's the biggest reason. Pennsylvania is the ball game. If Vice President Harris wins Pennsylvania, she likely is president. And even the Trump team is convinced that if she picked Josh Shapiro, that would take Pennsylvania off the table.
Looking at the final choices, every one of them has some really solid benefits and at the same time some downside. It's amazing how it works. I would do like a Ben Franklin close on each of them. I can do Waltz. Shapiro is strong. He's a great speaker too. I don't know if you've been watching him lately. He kind of does remind me of what people say is one of the one of the greatest orators of our generation. Whether you love him or don't love him quite as much, but he's got some of the same cadences and everything else. Do you think it's going to be Shapiro at this point, Mike?
That's in the vice president's head, the second gentleman's head. This is a classic Washington case where if you know, you ain't talking. If you talking, you don't know.
You don't believe that leak last week? Because it almost looked like someone knew it was going to, someone said she's going to be appearing with Governor Shapiro, but that would have been a horrible time for it to come out before a weekend.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it's in Philadelphia seems like a massive clue, definitely is being taken that way. But you can make the case for the others, as you say. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, 46, looks like the future, as one Democrat put it to me. Put Vice President Harris with Governor Beshear, a real picture of the future. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, a lot of push for him this weekend. A lot of big names, especially like on the progressive part of the Democratic Party, pushing hard for Governor Walz over this weekend, convinced that the pick was not made. And Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona tweet last night made it look for a little bit like he thinks it's not him. But one Democrat pointed out to me, you just say astronaut and fighter pilot, you've got my attention. And so a lot of strengths among other options. Secretary Pete Buttigieg, someone who has a great future in the Democratic Party and President Biden's cabinet. someone that is close to the vice president and someone to keep an eye on.
So
Right.
what's your betting line here, Mike?
Got Shapiro.
You got Shapiro. You think Shapiro's it?
Yeah, the signs point toward that.
Yep.
The signs don't point away. But it was interesting. Over the weekend, you saw a push of people, including some union leaders. You saw Senator Bernie Sanders saying that he was for Tim Walz of Minnesota. So that's why I say it's very much with the vice president.